Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today, we hope to answer the question, what is liberalism? So here are a few things that we like to say liberalism is. It's about individual rights, democracy, meaning elections and free enterprise. Also, promote civil liberties. Now, let me give you some history of this descendant of classical republicanism. This is Thomas Hobbes. He lived from 1588 to 1679. His values were order, obedience, absolute power, self-preservation, and peace. He didn't mind arbitrary power in the state if it would bring peace, order, and self-preservation. If we accomplish that, then we would owe the state our unquestioning obedience. He lived through some very hard times in England and did not want others to experience that at all costs. He believed in natural rights, but when he spoke of life in a state of nature, he said it was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Let me tell you about John Locke. He lived from 1632 to 1704. He believed in natural law, social contract theory, consent of the governed. Government was not instituted by force. Sovereignty lies in the people, but is temporarily transferred through elections to a body of representatives. If you do not like the government enough, you have the right to rebel. He was not anti-statist, but he did not want strong, overbearing states. He wanted limited government. So, commonalities between these two, you've got democracy defined by elections, majority rule, consent of the governed, individual rights and natural rights, and negative liberty. The US and French revolutions were founded on a mix of classical republicanism and classical liberalism. You may watch my videos on that. We see Thomas Jefferson, who adored Locke, borrowed his line from his second treatise of government about life, liberty, and property. He changed it in the Declaration of Independence to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I would argue that the US has gradually shed classical republicanism in favor of classical liberalism, or maybe even neoliberalism. We see this in the decline of checks and balances or the rise of the imperial presidency. Classical liberalism came under attack during the 1920s and 30s, and other ideologies like communism and fascism sought to supplant it as the premier ideology. 100 years later, we see liberalism under attack again. But before we get there, join me next time for another episode on the rise of neoliberalism. Long live the Republic.